Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Gary Elson.
Thank you. Good morning. The June 17, 2021 Finance and Budget Committee is now called to order. Before we get started, we need to make certain findings on the record regarding the necessity of conducting this meeting by electronic participation without a physical quorum due to the coronavirus pandemic. Finance and Budget Committee, June 17, 2021. In accordance with Tennessee Code annotated Section 8-44-108B and 2, as chair of the Finance and Budget Committee, I offer the following facts and circumstances to support of a finding of necessity for the Finance and Budget Committee to conduct this meeting without the physical presence of a quorum. The Finance and Budget Committee is scheduled to take up important Finance and Budget Committee matters that require timely action by the Finance and Budget Committee, including approval of a tuition and mandatory fee increase, approval of institutional budgets, and approval of the institution's capital construction plan. Participation by electronic means is necessitated by ongoing health and safety issues pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic. Electronic participation for the committee meeting is necessary to ensure the safety of board members, staff, and guests while the institution implements additional measures to resume in its in-person operations. Accordingly, I move that the Finance and Budget Committee find that participation by a quorum of Finance and Budget Committee members by electronic means of communication is necessary. Is there a second?
Second.
The question is on the motion to find that participation by quorum of the Finance and Budget Committee members by electronic means of communications is necessary. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
Trustee Kerbill,
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
The motion carries, and we will proceed with the meeting with a quorum present. Before committee members, if you cannot hear or speak to the other committee members or board members, please state so now. For each committee member participating electronically, please identify any individuals who are present in the location from which you are participating. At this time, we need to call the roll. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye. Present.
Trustee Kerbill,
Present.
Trustee Pinnick.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the March 11th, 2021 Finance and Budget Committee minutes. The minutes of the Finance and Budget Committee March 11th, 2021 meeting are included for your review in the board materials for June 17, 21 board meeting. I move for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of March 11, 2021 Finance and Budget committee minutes as contained in the board material for June 17, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The question is on the motion to recommend to the full board the approval of March 11, 2021 Finance and Board Committee meeting minutes as contained in the board materials for June 17, 2021 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
trustee Corbill,
Aye.
trustee Pinnick,
Aye.
3 ayes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the fiscal year 2021-22 tuition and mandatory fee increase of 1.9%. The materials for this agenda item are included in the materials for the June 17, 2021 board meeting. Please note that in accordance with the Tennessee Tuition Transparency and Accountability Act, the Board Policy 006, the proposed fee increase was posted to the board website at least 15 days prior to our meeting, and members of the public were given the opportunity to submit comments on the proposed tuition and fee increase. I'm asking President Glover or her designee to provide pertinent information related to this agenda item. President Glover.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'm going to call on Mr. Allen to get us started.
Thank you, President Glover, and thank you also, Trustee Lewis and other members of the committee. As stated, per this recommendation here, we would like to request a 1.9% increase. The state of Tennessee, the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, provided a range between 0 and 2%, and we have decided to request 1.9%. I would like to note too that Tennessee State University still has the lowest undergraduate per credit hour fees and for maintenance fees within the state of Tennessee. So I think that is a huge note for this committee, that we're not trying to put the cost of education on the back of our students. We are still affordable, the most affordable in the state. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the request if there are not any questions.
I have a question. This is Steve Corbiel. What are the other 4-year universities doing in the state as far as fee increases?
I am not sure what the other universities are currently doing. My guess would be that they are projecting an increase in their tuition and fees as well. And that really keeps us in line with the other state institutions.
Well, there are some that no one went over 2%. They did it from 0 to 2%.
Right.
But I think two of them had no increase at all. You may have the numbers, Lawrence. 2 of them had no increase at all, and others stayed within their range.
Yeah, my understanding is that University of Memphis, I believe, was not going to. MTSU, I believe, has an equal amount, about 1.9, 1.95 or something like that, increase at MTSU. I
think it was UT. See, Memphis have the highest rates, highest fees anyway, and so they're not doing a fee increase. We're at the lowest fees in the system, so we're doing the 1.9. That's what we were asking for, the 1.9.
Yeah, my understanding is Austin P has a fee increase as well, but I'm not sure what that is.
Even at that rate, that will still keep us at the lowest cost.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all.
Chairman Lewis, may I ask a question?
Please, ma'am, go right ahead.
I know we made the decision to not increase tuition and keep it the same during the COVID-19 pandemic. So given that we aren't fully removed from the COVID-19 pandemic, what is the basis on the decision to increase at this point in time?
That's a good question, Ms. Thomas. And
Well-
again, oh, go ahead, Dr. Glover, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, we have the lowest in the state, so we're trying to keep up. We don't want to become any lower on a percentage basis than others. We have, our costs don't stop because of COVID. We made sure we, kept students together. We did everything that we were supposed to do during the COVID. And we hope we're coming out of it. But we want to at least try to be aligned by our peers, so we're not further compressed by not having a fee increase. We didn't have a fee increase last year. We just been keeping things as low as possible. We're still the best bargain, in the state for the dollars that we get. And so we just couldn't go another year without the fee increase.
Dr. Glover, is it possible to use the CARES Act money to cover that 1.9% increase for all students for 1 year?
No, we can't do it that way. We can use it to do revenue losses. But we can use it for some parts of revenue, like the housing revenue. We can't, I gotta ask, where's Dr. Francis Williams? We have the do's and don'ts.
And those were your setup.
Oh, sure.
We can use the do's and don'ts, but we did inquire about the fee increase. Could we use this to offset? And it could be a specific offset across the board for fee increases like that, but it can be, so we're told by Washington, but it can be for revenue losses, specific revenue losses that we've identified several categories of those.
Okay. Mr. Allen, do you know what the total dollar amount would be for a full-time student by the end of the semester? I know it's about per hour, but what would be the total amount?
I will calculate that for you, Ms. Thomas.
And they're still very small when you use the phone, just FYI.
Dr. Glover?
I see your first point, Ms. Allen. Here's my comment name.
It was me. So with every increase in tuition, I'm guessing there's some sort of corresponding need to provide institutional dollars to students who, are having some financial difficulty. Does this increase our obligation to do that significantly? Is there any significant impact on what we might be required to do in terms of providing institutional dollars for scholarships?
Well, in a few minutes, we're going to go to the budget, how we use this increase to show where it flows through in the budget.
Okay.
So just hold that until Mr. Allen goes through that.
All right.
If it doesn't come out at that point, you can ask us again.
Okay.
If
And
there are
without
no,
continue. Oh, I'm sorry.
are there any additional questions? Then I move for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the fiscal year 2021-22 tuition and mandatory fee increase of 1% as contained in the board 1.9 in the June 17, 2021 meeting material. Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I had an additional question. I don't know if you could hear me.
Please, excuse me, go right ahead.
Also, my other question was, what is the process if this is adopted in the protocol for allowing students enough time to maybe gather the necessary funds to make up this increase? I know just speaking from a student perspective, a lot of students, let's just say, just use the band, for example, many members in the band got scholarship cuts due to budget concerns in the COVID-19 pandemic, but there's no guarantee that those funds will be reallocated to students this upcoming school year. So now on top of that, we're adding an additional scholarship increase for them to have to make up those funds as well. So what would be the protocol allowing them enough time to know that this will occur, because it is, June and we start school in July. We need to, in August to start preparing for that.
Well, we're working with all the students, as you probably know, because we're going through the accounts. We have the COVID dollars in effect for this fall. So almost every student that has the average, the GPA, a reasonable GPA, the high ones have a certain amount, and the reasonable GPAs have an amount. So we're working with the students through the COVID funds and other foundation funds to assist them. In fact, I don't have any students who are crying right now about not having the funds, so we're working with all of them, because I get the emails every day. So the protocol is, when we finish this meeting, and if it's approved by the board, that's when we let the students know about the fee increase. As one fee increase was 2 days ago. Well, I think it was, 2 days ago with another university. So they put theirs, so you put it out immediately because it goes into effect at the end of the meeting. And so that's what we're doing. We'll make sure the students know. We're working with the students. Our financial aid office is working with them around the clock. So that's the protocol, to make sure they know immediately, and then we'll assist them.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn.
Any other comments regarding this discussion? Again, I move for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the fiscal year 2021-22 tuition and mandatory fee increase of 1.9 as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 meeting materials. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the fiscal year 2021-22 tuition and mandatory fee increase of 1.9 as contained in the board's June 17 meeting materials. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
trustee Corbill,
Aye.
trustee Pinnick,
Aye.
or 3 ayes.
The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the institutional budgets, including fiscal year 21 estimated budget and fiscal 2022 proposed budget. The material for this agenda item are included in the materials for the June 17, 2021 board meeting. I'm asking President Glover and or her designees to provide pertinent information related to this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. Ms. Allen?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Again, as Trustee Lewis, Chairman Lewis just stated, there are actually 2 budgets in front of you at this time. That is the estimated budget for 2021 and also the proposed budget for 21-22. I'm going to go in a little bit of a different order as the documents are presented in your board packet. If you will turn, of course, your first document starts with expenditures, but I would like to start with the revenue breakdown first. So if you'll turn your attention to the summary of unrestricted current funds revenues, and that's the July budget 2021-2022. Again, the summary of unrestricted current funds.
That's on page 88, I believe.
Yes, page 87, Madam President. Is everyone there?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The budget for July, beginning July 21-22 is a very conservative budget. Of course, we are turning the corner as it relates to the pandemic. But again, we still need to be cautious of where we are. We built the tuition and fee structure, again, based on a flat enrollment. Not to say that it won't increase over last year, but again, it's better to take a conservative approach. The tuition and fees is calculated based on a 3-year average, so that we don't have significant swings from one year to the next in determining the tuition and fees. So we are expecting $68.5 million for tuition and fees. Another thing I would like to note too on federal grants and contracts, the $4.5 million, that is actually all indirect costs or indirect revenues from particular grants. All of that revenue actually goes back for research. 100% of that goes back for research. So there are none of that 4.5 million is used for administrative cost. Under the sales and services and other activities of 5.9 million, you see that that's up over the estimated budget for 2021. Major reason for that is that there's additional gain guarantees. So that again is a huge plus for the university. It's about $1 million more than it was over the prior year for gain guarantee. The other sources of 5.7 million, that is actually part of the lost revenue that we were able to recognize from the CARES funding. So that's budgeted for FY 21-22. That brings our total projected revenues to 154.5 million for the upcoming fiscal year. Are there any questions related to the revenue streams?
Mr. Allen.
Yes, please.
With respect to grants and such, is there any indirect cost associated with that?
Yes, sir. As I just mentioned, the 4.5 million that you see under federal grants contracts, that is all the indirect cost dollars.
So, Dr. Williams, maybe Francis Williams. So if it is only $4.5 million, does that mean that our effective indirect cost rate is about 10% for all grants that we bring?
Based on what amount are you referring back to?
So it seems like the indirect cost revenue is for federal grants and contracts is $4.5 million. But I thought that, the university has about $50 million research grants last year. So that means that like indirect cost generation out of that $50 million is about 9 to 10%. Is that what we have?
Well, indirect costs are generated on expenditures, so not the awards. So it would be different.
So when we, on average, if we have $50 million grants, don't we spend them in 1 year, or don't we spend them, or in general, how much do we spend for research grants per year?
So we're somewhere around 15 million for expenditures, depending on the year. So indirect cost is based on what you spend. It's generated based on the expenditures, but not based on what was awarded that year.
So for example, for 2021, or let's go to 17-18, it was about $50 million. And then 18-19, another $50 million in that range. And 19-20 is another $50 million. But this is not per year, I understand. This is like multi-year grants. But don't we expect that on average, we should spend what we bring, because we are spending this year, not only the grants that we brought this year, but also the last year, the year before last year. And so why is it only $15 million if we are bringing 50 in that range? I mean, why is that different?
Right. So as you mentioned, we can have a $5 million grant, for example, but that could be spread over 5 years, over 10 years. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that $5 million grant is going to be spent in that year.
No, I understand, but this year we should be spending grants that we brought from like 5 years ago, right? I mean, also 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year and this year. So why is the accumulated research grant expenditure is so low if the average is about $50 million per year in the last 5-6 years?
We're stair stepping it. You know, whatever the amount is each year, and then we add it together. It's not like it's an average of those. It's we just stair step. I hear your point, but the numbers out of numbers. So if it's 45 million 1 year, 50 million 1 year, 48 million, 55 million, we have to do it based on that year, and then we accumulate it, and that comes as voila, there's the number.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
So
to clarify, Dr. Segman, one more point.
yeah.
It's called federal grants and contracts. And where's Dr. Williams? Here she is. And it's not the same for research grants versus contracts versus other things that we bring in. So this year we'll actually be reaching 60 million, give or take, plus or minus, but that is not 60 million in research grants that all pay indirect costs. So that I believe is the most major explanation as to your question.
Yeah.
Is that a fair
Exactly.
statement, Dr. Williams?
That's
Exactly.
correct. So it's expenditures don't mean that a $50 million grant is, or $5 million, back to the $5 million grant. That doesn't mean that indirect costs are charged on that full $5 million grant either. If there's scholarships or equipment, that doesn't get charged indirect costs. So it's not just a direct charge on all of our awards.
That's exactly what I'm asking, what Dr. Harris is saying. Like I said, effective indirect cost rate, that's what I meant. Because I know that some grants have like 40%, some have like 0% because of the requirements, some have 10. I was just trying to get an,
ballpark.
a feeling about the effective indirect cost rate for TSU, but I understand.
Yes, and I think that this is more or less where we are in reality, in terms of indirect costs, give or take.
Right, but all of that varies each year in terms of what types of awards as well as expenditures.
And we all share the I think the passion to increase, maybe even at a R1 one day, because there'll be more research grants, and then of course there will be more indirect.
Yeah, the research grants typically bring 42%, right?
Right.
Which is very high.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And,
yes.
And I believe we're looking at, Mr. Allen, we're looking at the adjusting the indirect cost rates overall. We had a firm out of Memphis, the one that did the same one that did it for Memphis State University of Memphis. Ms. Allen, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, and again, Dr. Glover and I have had conversations about this as well. We want to make sure that we maximize the indirect cost rate as much as we can, as it truly benefits our students and the research that's done here at the university. So that's something that we will continue to look at.
All right, Mr. Allen, does that conclude that discussion?
Yes, sir, if all minds are clear. All right.
Is there a motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institutional budgets as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 meeting materials? Now I would move the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institutional budget as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 meeting materials. Is there a second? from my committee members.
Yes. Mr. Allen started with the revenue side. Did we finish on the expenditure side? Was there anything else to discuss on that side of it?
I didn't hear that. Yeah, I didn't hear we did. I don't think we did. That's where my question was too, Van.
Yeah.
So turn your attention then to page 88.
88 or 87?
It may be 80, it's 88 in mine, so I do apologize. It's going to be the summary of unrestricted funds, expenditures, and transfers.
Yep.
Budget 21-22. You can see that overall E&G or education general expenditures are down roughly 900,000 from this current fiscal year to the request for 21-22 fiscal year, which is not significant. Again, we really wanted to take a conservative approach to this budget. We are looking at also between now and October, looking at the adjunct faculty, also the summer and the graduate students, and how that also impacts our overall budget. Are there any questions as it relates to the expenditure portion of the budget for FY 21-22?
Yes. Yep. Yes, I do. This is Steve Corbeil. Welcome, Mr. Allen. Appreciate it. I look forward to meeting you. Just on the expenditure side, we've talked about this for the last several years, but obviously there's ups and downs within the education and general expenditure category. You're referring to the 125.5 million going down to 124.6, I think, as your general view that it's being reduced slightly. Is that correct? By 900,000 or so?
That is correct, yes.
The issue we always get into is not that. It's always this transfer issue. Because, you know, as you can see, if we took $3.5 million in transfers, we're actually understating expenditures for the budget year compared to 21 when we look at 22. That's always a concern. And I understand, I heard you loud and clear that our revenues are conservative, but, you know, we really have to take into account that we're actually taking transfers to make up some dollars on the expenditure side. Can you kind of comment on that for me?
Sure. And again, and that's a very good point. So those non-mandatory transfers, they are to balance the budget. That's why we took the approach for 21-22, as you see, just 150,000 based on $150,000 transfer then out of reserves to balance the budget. Now, with that being said, 150,000 is a very small number. I'm looking throughout the year to adjust where we can as necessary to not pull any funds out of reserves to cover for operating expenditures.
And we've also transferred some unexpended plant dollars below as well. The only comment I'd say is if we're trying to create a conservative budget, and I understand this is just a propose, but every year that I've been on the board, we've taken dollars out of our funds to balance the budget. And unless you see otherwise, you know, that trend is the trend's already there for 4 years. So that's a budget risk that I would want to point out to the board that, you know, well, we continue to not want to take dollars out of reserves. Our history shows that we do. So I just think I think we should all be understanding that, you know, as we go into the next phase of the budget process, it'll be interesting to see whether or not reserves will be need to be depleted some more, which is always a concern.
Sure. The goal is not to use reserves.
Absolutely.
I can't speak to prior years, but I will speak to this current year, is that we want to be as conservative as we possibly can. We also want to be realistic as to where we are. I know we are in the process of making changes, but I think we're on the right path. We've identified these areas, and for trustees such as you and others that understand this process, how it works, we welcome that. I appreciate that. But again, my goal is to not pull from reserves. If anything, is to grow the reserves of the university.
That'd be great. Thank you. And welcome.
So I have a quick question about the instruction budget reduction.
Mhm.
It seems that the academic affairs budget is decreased by about $4 million, if I'm not mistaken. And this is about like 5% reduction in academic affairs budget that may impact instruction at TSU next semester. If we are expecting more revenue from tuition and fees, that means that our enrollment is not going to go down. So our needs for academic affairs is not going to go down, but maybe it will go up. So
And-
is there any, I mean, it's like, it used to be 44%, if I calculate correctly, now it's like 39% of the overall budget.
So-
Was there a discussion on that?
Well, so actually, the instruction cost, and you'll see that on page 89, is 48.97% of the overall E&G budget of 124.6 million. Now, our goal is to get that over 50%. Okay. Secondly, and you're right, you do see the 64.9 down to the 61 million on page 88 for instruction. But you also see there are costs in institutional support that are going to be allocated then to the instruction line as well. So that's where you see the difference. So we actually, almost half of the budget is for instruction. It's allocated to instruction.
Okay.
Mr. Allen, does it mean that that we're using more adjunct faculty is that part of it?
I cannot answer that question.
Dr. Harris can answer that.
Thank you, President Glover. No, we are not. We are maintaining the same level, and I'll refer a minute to the practice, not the budget. We're maintaining the same level of faculty that for instruction for a variety of reasons, and certainly one of them is to be in compliance with SACS. So we would never put ourselves at risk by not having enough faculty teaching.
And I would like to comment on the scholarships and fellowships. That actually came up just here a few minutes ago. And I want to thank Trustee Thomas, our student rep. Though we requested the 1.9% increase for maintenance fees, we also increased the student scholarships and fellowship budget as well, as we understand the needs of our students, especially coming off of a pandemic year, that we've allocated more internal resources to meet the needs of our students.
Well, one final point, Mr. Allen, this is Steve Corbeil again. I mean, as a projected budget, I think we're used to seeing that these things will change over time, and we're trying to assess the risk of the certain budgets. So I think what's a key point, you mentioned that you really are being very conservative on the revenue side because you really didn't include any kind of increase in enrollment in these projections. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct. We're wanting to keep that flat, and that's why keeping those expenditures pretty flat as well.
So
Yes.
there is some upside here if we grow enrollment on the revenue, which could offset perhaps some of these things that are unexpected on the expenditures. Is that fair?
That is fair. And again, as the Vice President of Finance, I'd like to take a conservative approach. It's easier to increase the budget as opposed to have to come in heavy and decrease the budget.
We agree.
Are there any other questions as it relates to the expenditure portion of the budget?
Shirts like baggies.
No.
We need to go and buy me some shirts. All just wear button down shirts that fit.
All right, are we complete, Mr. Allen?
Sir, we are, if there are no other questions.
Is there a motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institutional budgets as contained in the board's June 17th meeting material? And if so, I would like to move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institutional budgets as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 meeting materials. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
trustee Corbill,
Aye.
trustee Pinnick,
Aye.
3 ayes.
The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the fiscal year 21 supplemental compensation payment to eligible employees. The materials for this item are included in materials for the June 17, 21 board meeting. I'm asking President Glover and or her designee to provide pertinent information related to this agenda item. President Glover.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Lewis. Would you continue, Ms. Allen?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. Again, as Trustee Lewis mentioned, Chairman Lewis, 1% or of the base salary or $500 is being requested. I would like to mention that the state of Tennessee actually funded $603,000 of the total $797,000 cost to implement this one-time payment to employees. The university would fund the other $194,000 for this. This is actually eligible again for all full-time regular employees that were employed January the 1st of 2021 to June 30th, 2021. And this would be effective on their June 30th paycheck if approved by the board. Are there any questions?
You want to tell them there's two parts to this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, so this is the first piece of this approval. The second piece is going to then be a request for a 4.04% increase in the base salary for all full and regular full-time employees effective July the 1st. And I'll turn your attention to page
Well, actually, that's a separate agenda.
Oh,
item.
sorry.
Right. I just wanted to know they're doing two different.
Yes.
One vote is for the one time, and the next is for the budget for the salary increase. So that's what Ms. Allen was saying. Go ahead, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Madam President. So if there are any questions, I will entertain those at this time for the 1% in the increase in the base salary or $500 at this time.
Just a clarity, Mr. Allen, that's all included in your projections for 2021?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the fiscal year 21 supplemental compensation payment to eligible employees as contained in the board material of June 17, 2021? If so, I move that.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of fiscal year 21 supplemental compensation payment to eligible employees as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 meeting materials. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
trustee Corbill,
Aye.
trustee Pinnick,
Aye.
3 ayes.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of institutions fiscal year 2021-22 compensation plan. Information regarding the finance and budget agenda item is included in your June 17 materials. President Glover, please provide pertinent information related to this item agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President. Trustee Lewis. Also, this is actually part two, as Madam President had mentioned. It's a separate action item, though. We are requesting a 4.04% increase in base salary for all full-time regular employees as effective for July 1st of 2021. The impact to the overall financial impact is $3.1 million for this 4.04% increase. However, again, we thank the state of Tennessee that they funded $2.5 million of this cost, leaving $600,000 then to the university, which this also has been included as part of the budget, the projected budget for FY 21-22. Are there any questions?
Just curious. This is Steve again. I'm sorry to keep pepping your questions, Mr. Allen, but you're answering them. You're answering them quite well, so that's good. The question I have is, do we have a minimum wage for the university, and what is that?
We do.
What is that?
For the persons who come in as faculty, you meant to help me out, Dr. Harris. We have a minimum faculty salary coming in of $55, I believe. And we have a minimum for chairs, department chairs. We have a minimum for staff. I think we raised it from 13 to 19 to 21.5, 22,000. I think the minimum is 22,000 now. We're coming in, but we don't have a minimum wage like, so much per hour. But
Right.
We have so much per position.
Okay. That's what I was getting to. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of press about going to a minimum wage. Is that something that we'd ever contemplate as a university? Obviously there's implications of that, but it has to do with the pool that we're talking about as far as salary adjustments. But it's certainly something to keep in mind, I think.
And we're talking about just how difficult it'd be for someone to live off. That's why we raised it from the low. We had some, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 now, when we said we had to. We're talking about the staff positions that.
Right.
In 13, we raised it to 22. We raised the faculty, and now we're just saying we have not really dealt with a minimum wage of sorts. I really don't want to deal with the minimum wage, so I'd rather do it with the faculty and the staff and administrators. But if you think minimum wage is the best way to go, we may have to even just take a look at that. But right now, we have not included that in our projections and our discussions about it.
No, I'm just more curious whether you guys have evaluated that or even looked at it. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and Mr. Allen and Dr. Glover. Is there a motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institution's fiscal year 2021-2022 compensation plan as contained in the board's material? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institution's fiscal year 2021-2022 compensation plan as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 board material. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Corbell.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
3 ayes.
The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the report of the approval of the institution's fiscal year 2021-2022 capital construction plan. Information regarding the Finance and Budget Committee agenda items is included in your board material for June 17, 2021. President Glover, please provide pertinent information related to this agenda item.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Lewis. There are actually 3 different requests here. It's going to be the outlay request, which is also construction request. That is $16.5 million for the Brown Daniel Library completion project, that renovation. We have a separate request for maintenance here on the campus as well. And with that, and the third item will be the disclosure request. I would like to turn my attention to the maintenance request, and I would also like to thank the Chief of Staff, Dr. Johnson. He has been instrumental in overseeing facilities and construction-related projects on campus, really keeping things going in the absence of the CFO position. So I wanted just to commend him to this committee. With the maintenance request, there are several requests here, but I do want you all to keep in mind that in some case we're looking at the CARES funding, as some of this may be eligible to be used for these particular maintenance requests. One, for example, being the HVAC and electrical. There's been some talk about that from the Department of Education, that being allowable cost. So we are assessing each of these to best utilize the CARES funding under the direction of our president. On the outlay request for the Brown Daniel Library, the $16.5 million, the university is required for statute to come up with 4% to start such project based on approval. And that would be approximately $660,000. The last item on the disclosure request, and you all received in your packet a spreadsheet that breaks down where we are for the request for fiscal year 22-23. Okay. If you'll turn your attention to that spreadsheet, please. Item number 1 being the natural disaster projects, that was primarily due to the tornadoes. We have been in close contact and communication with the insurance companies, and we're expecting $25 million in total of recovery cost, $25 million. As of to date, we have $17.7 million expenditures appropriated for those particular costs, for those projects. You will see that there were a couple of items that relates to upgrades for the residence halls, also for other areas on campus, which yield $41.375 million. Now, I do want to turn your attention, we're asking for an approval in the disclosure request of $22.4 million. I wanted to be very transparent to let the members know that we are expecting $25 million in insurance reimbursement. However, there is $6,029,690 of cost associated for approval for FY 22-23. So if you take items 7 through 14 and section 1 of the 25 million, 6,029,000 of that comes back to 22,404,690 for that request. And to further break that down again, just that you all are aware, those projects are, 2 projects are ag related, 2 for greenhouse, actually 3 for greenhouse, and then a roof replacement. So that's the total of the $6,029,690. Are there any questions? Well, before I ask if there are any questions, I also had an opportunity to speak to Trustee Thomas, our student rep, and we are very conscientious and aware of the needs of our students. That's why we're here. Though I'm a CFO, I'm a student-driven CFO. So we want to make sure that the students have what they need while they enjoy their experience here on campus. Oftentimes, students can go to any university to receive their education, but the biggest matter is having those outside opportunities and events, etc., that really is what piques their interest. So we want to make sure that we continue to listen to our students and provide the resources and spaces needed for their educational experiences. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Where does the responsibility for negotiating with the insurance company how much they are going to pay reside?
So that actually resides with really with me ultimately, okay? And it's really the replacement cost, Chairman Lewis, that drives the market for these particular expenditures. So again, with the pandemic, it really drove up the cost of wood, steel, etc. So, but we're actually still in negotiations with the insurance company. Right now, they project the 25 million of recovered cost, but it could increase. But right now, it's right around 25 million.
Do they piecemeal this money to the school, or do they give it to you in one lump sum?
So this is based on, it's a process. It's not lump sum. It's based on each individual project that's been assigned by the university and then also the insurance company.
I see. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Allen regarding this subject? Is there a motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institution's 2021-2022 capital construction plan as contained in the board's June 17 meeting materials? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion for the Finance and Budget Committee to recommend to the full board the approval of the institution's fiscal year 2021-2022 capital construction plan as contained in the board's June 17, 2021 meeting materials. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
trustee Corbell,
Aye.
trustee Pinnick,
Aye.
3 ayes.
The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the Finance and Budget Committee report. Information regarding this Finance and Budget Committee agenda item is included in your board materials for June 17, 2021 board material. President Glover, please provide pertinent information related to this agenda item.
Thank you. Mr. Allen has some final comments.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President, Chairman Lewis. Just a few things, and I'll be brief. As far as the audit, provide an update for that. As President Glover mentioned earlier on today, Donna Jewell, she's the legislative audit manager for the Comptroller of the Treasury. Been in close contact with her since I've been here. And their goal was to get that audit out by today. They were not able to meet that deadline, but they're looking here to have it out very soon. We'll keep you all apprised as to when we receive the final report. As mentioned, there were audit findings in the report. We have addressed those audit findings and will continue to move the university forward as it relates to the fiscal operations for the university. From a facility side, campus beautification is always a plus. We have a few summer paint projects going on. That's going to be in the campus center, post office, the bookstore, food court entrance, and residence halls. We want our continuing students to come back and see a refreshing atmosphere. Okay, we want our new students to be able to come in and say, wow, this looks good. So we're constantly looking at, again, ways to beautify the campus, not only for the students, but for our community as a whole. Throughout the next couple of months, I've been really been assessing business and finance and looking at the areas of concern, or I'll say opportunities. I am looking at positions. We're also looking at ways to automate processes to make sure that we are utilizing our system and utilizing our individuals. The more that we can automate, it takes that human error out of it, out of the process. So that's really what I'm focused on. And as I mentioned earlier, revising the policies, procedures, and also providing desk procedures for each of our staff members. It's critical that someone can pick up a job in the absence of another. Okay. Throughout this process, and again, I am very pleased to be here as the Vice President of Finance. There are some organizational changes that have been made in the area of business and finance. In the last 6 months, there's been a new controller. There's been a hiring for director positions, also a foundation accountant, as we've had conversations about the foundation on today, and then other areas in the finance area as well. So we're making the necessary changes and strides forward to keep this university, which is an excellent university, again, just strong and competent in what we do. So again, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to serve Tennessee State University. I have quite a few homework assignments after today's meeting, but again, I will address those. Let me state they were not broke in a day, can't fix it in a day, but I will assure you that these items will be fixed in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. This is an informational item, discussion item, and no vote is required. And I know we're right in the middle of our committee meeting, but I want to take this opportunity to go on record to say to Mr. Allen, thank you for, number one, agreeing to come to Tennessee State University. Thank Dr. Glover and her committee for choosing you. I want to thank Dr. Glover and Mr. Allen for inviting me to visit with them, because I wanted an in-person visitation. And this past Sunday, after church at 3 o'clock, I made a trip to Tennessee State University in the middle of the afternoon before I had dinner to make sure that I had this opportunity. So I thank Mr. Allen and Dr. Glover. And I look forward to seeing you again, and maybe not on Sunday. The next item on the agenda is,
yeah. I'll make one comment, please. If you don't mind, I apologize. And it's definitely a team approach. As I stated, I'm glad to be here. And I would like to thank Provost Dr. Harris. He really picked up the ball and ran a sprint race in a marathon with the FY19 and 20 audits. As a former auditor and CPA, I know that was a major undertaking for him. But I want to, again, publicly thank him for his great work and his team for seeing things through where we are. So again, thank you, Harris.
That's a good one.
Thank you kindly. Much appreciated.
I'd like to ditto that, Dr. Harris. I thank you also. I heard just a little bit, and we thank you very much.
Thank you kindly, Trustee Lewis.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is a report of the enrollment, marketing, and student recruitment. Information regarding the Finance and Budget Committee agenda item is included in your board material for today, June 17th, 2021. Again, this is an informational item. No vote is required, but Dr. Glover, please provide pertinent information related to this agenda item.
Thank you. I'm going to call Mr. Izzard.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chair Lewis. I'm pleased to share the results of the diligence, the tenacity, the innovation of our admissions operations team, our recruiters, our admissions counselors, our enrollment specialists, our new student program staff, and our campus visit teams since our last board meeting. Let me first say to each of you that the efforts, the results that we've achieved in the recruiting and retaining of our students has been a collective effort of the members of the Division of Enrollment Management, supported by our colleagues in academic affairs, student affairs, business affairs, auxiliary services, athletics, and the staff all across this campus. What I'm really trying to communicate that this really is a group effort, a team effort, campus-wide. And there's extreme excitement on our campus about the new and continuing students who are returning to campus in just 2 months, and we're ready. Our president and our onboarding teams work tirelessly to attract, to retain the best and brightest of students to TSU. And the results are in your board materials on page 111 and 112. I'll briefly just highlight a few items for you. At the top of the report that I provided for you was our undergraduate application analysis. You have 5 years of data. And at the time that this report was printed for you, we have over 10,800 applications to date at Tennessee State at the time of printing. That represents the largest number of applications in the past 5 years. And we salute our recruiters and our admissions team for that work that they're doing. Also, we've secured the highest number of new students that have been admitted to the university in the past 5 years. And that represents an increase of about 4.87% in the number of new students that were admitted for fall 2021 compared to this time last year. Very, very, very excited and thankful for the work of those teams that are doing a yeoman's task. Lastly, I want to point out that there's been a significant decrease in the number of students who have withdrawn their application. You'll notice that in the data that I've provided as well. On page 112, I've given you a snapshot. Well, before I go on to that, this report was provided for you. You'll note there as of May 2021. And when I ran the data this morning, this morning alone, we have over 11,441 applications. Again, you can see the increase as a result of the efforts of all of our teams in enrollment management, as well as the campus-wide effort of bringing students to campus and getting them enrolled. On the second page, page 112, there's a snapshot of the enrollment data compared to where we were this time last year. You'll see the graduate school and the undergraduate. These are students that have continuing students who have registered for the fall and preparing to come back, as well as new students that have registered. So at the time of this report, we had a total of 3,039 students for fall 2020, and then fall 2021, 3,658. Just want to point out that accomplishment represents an increase of the total number of students registered for fall 2021 of about 18.49%. And then campus-wide, we have coordinated our efforts. As I mentioned earlier, student success, academic affairs, you have deans, you have department chairs, you have student engagement groups, you have student life groups that are actually interacting with the students, making sure that they're registering for the fall. If they have challenges, be it personal, be it medical, be it financial, they're referring those students to the appropriate departments. And it's really amazing to see the cooperative work that's happening across the campus to keep our returning students enrolled and also bring in new talented students who are high achievers. As it relates to specific recruitment efforts since our last board meeting, There are a number of things that are there in the report. I'll just highlight that as we look at all of our recruitment efforts, one of the main data points that we look at is students who have completed their intent to enroll. And that number at the time of the report was 1360. Since that time, that number has even grown to 1591. So there are over just about 1,600 students who have already signed on and beginning that process to complete their enrollment. After you're admitted, there are several steps that you go through to be enrolled, which include student enrollment, new student orientation, which include housing deposit, which includes confirming your financial aid. And all of these students in the 1591 have begun that process. And so we're looking forward to a really strong class this fall. I'll go on to page 113 and talk a little bit about our retention efforts. And in the Office of New Student Programs, they really have a focus on the first year students. You can read a number of innovative things that they've done. The level and the rate that our freshmen from last year, they're leading the way in terms of registration for fall 2021. And we recognize that that's because of the work of the new student programs and the teams in that office. They've created mentorship programs. There's a new initiative that they started this year called Tiger Pals, which is a peer, PAL stands for a peer advocate and leader. And these students actually take time to meet with our new class of students that are coming in, talk about their experience. What's unique about this group is that the PALs, the Tiger Pals, each of them have a GPA of 3.0 or higher, and all of them are in their sophomore year. So they can really relate to the freshman experience at TSU and really help provide guidance and support as a peer for our incoming students. They've also provided swag bags and first year student tips for studying final exam and midterm exams, and then also a big rush for them to get registered and be ready for the fall. We also got some data on all of our first-time students. 76% of them who completed the first year satisfaction survey said that they felt welcome at TSU, and they felt that all of the resources that they needed were available for their success. I'll move on to dual enrollment. That team has really done a great job of reaching out to students within the Metro Nashville area, but also other counties that are nearby TSU. And their focus has really been around getting students involved in dual enrollment, taking courses at TSU while they're in high school. And that we look at that as a great pipeline program to where, while they are in their 10th grade year, 11th grade year, moving on to their 12th grade year, they've not only accrued credit hours, but they've developed a relationship with our institution that makes them more likely to continue studying at Tennessee State University. They have also hosted over 20 virtual events online and also actually exceeded their enrollment application goals, and I've provided that data for you in the report. Our graduate school continues to have great activity and actually efforts to make sure that our enrollment is increasing there. I've listed a number of items in the report from the graduate school that you can see they've actually done a lot of outreach to organizations and businesses to give employees advanced degrees and advanced programs. So in addition to that, partnerships across the state as well as in Metro Nashville with the governor's government agencies has been a focus of theirs. In addition to increasing, this is really huge, and I heard some conversation about this earlier as we were talking about our academic programs and remaining competitive. One of the big heavy lifts that we're very proud of is that the graduate school now has over 30 online programs offering those programs to remain competitive in the workforce. Another big push and a big initiative in the graduate school is that our current TSU graduates who are leaving the undergraduate school have a great opportunity and a great benefit moving into our graduate programs, and that effort has been underway and doing quite well. And another big push is really partnering with other HBCUs who don't offer graduate programs. And so as you can see, all across campus, it's all systems go. We're very serious about increasing enrollment and very committed and dedicated to following our president's leadership as we continue to innovate around finding, attracting, retaining the best and brightest here at TSU. That concludes my report, President Glover. Thank you.
Thank you, President Glover and Mr. SR, for that report. Again, it was for informational item only. The final item on the agenda is the report on athletics. Information regarding this Finance and Budget Committee agenda item is included in your board material of June 17, 2021. Dr. Glover, please provide pertinent information. Again, this is for informational discussion item only.
We want to call on to ask Dr. Mickey Allen if he would provide his update.
Thank you, President Glover. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees and Chair Lewis for providing me the opportunity to provide a report on TSU athletics. Since the hiring of Eddie George as our 22nd head coach of the Tennessee State University, there's been an extremely high level of excitement and alumni engagement and exposure around our football program. To date, I'd like to highlight the fact that we've been on various forms of national media, both print and digital platforms, such as ESPN, First Take, the Stephen A. Smith Show, Fox Sports, NBC, CBS, USA Today, and I can go on and on. But I'd like to thank Assistant VP of Public Relations and Communications, Mrs. Kelly Sharp, for her leadership and reaching out to these media outlets. So there's definitely a high level of enthusiasm that we're very proud about right now here at Tennessee State University. I'd like to mention that Coach Eddie George has solidified his coaching staff. That coaching staff consists of 10 assistant coaches and 6 support staff members that will work to bring the national prominence back to the Big Blue and our Tennessee State football program. For those that like to find out more information on these individuals, their profiles are parked on tsutigers.com. So you can find out more information on the staff on tsutigers.com. The staff comes and brings 55 years of experience, both at the NFL ranks and collegiate sports. So we're very much pleased that we have individuals in our building that will be able to help and grow and develop our young men and to find football players, but more importantly, individuals that after they get degrees here at Tennessee State University can represent the Big Blue in various channels from a career and professional development standpoint. The new leadership in football, I'll say, has had a tremendous impact on football recruiting and student recruiting as well. You know, I've been several places, had an opportunity to go to Florida, and it's, hey, you know, I had a TSU shirt and hat. They say, hey, you all are the institution that just hired Eddie George, and you know, my young person does not play ball, play college athletics. We have looked into what it takes to become a student there because we've heard phenomenal things about the institution and what you all are doing there on campus off of 3500 John Merritt Boulevard. So we're proud about that because with our push athletically, we do understand our role is to make sure that we provide a great marketing arm for the institution and we can help out in our enrollment initiatives. I'd like to talk about recruiting a little bit further. Yesterday, we had a Roar City mega camp, which was our elite prospect camp. We had over 500 prospects in attendance. They were 3- and 5-star athletes. We also had representatives from various conferences, being coaches from the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12. So we were very pleased with that. I want to give a thank you to Auxiliary Services and our facility management group for always being there and assisting us and making our camp a special event in which it was yesterday. We did offer a lot of young men, so on the Twitter and social media accounts, they were ecstatic about receiving an offer to come play for the Big Blues. So we were pleased on how that turned out and the outcome of that was yesterday. Moving on, I want to highlight some of our fundraising accolades that we've had over the past year. Since I've been here, we're just shy of $2.3 million in gift commitments and dollars raised for the athletics department. So that's something that I know is unprecedented in the history of Tennessee State, but that's been a collective effort with our Institutional Advancement Office and the leadership of Mr. Isabel and a prolific fundraiser in which we have in Dr. Glenda Glover. So thank you to those individuals as well for raising dollars to really advance our programs. We recently had gifts secured from former Board of Trustee member, Mr. Bill Freeman and his wife, Bab Freeman. Mr. Freeman is the founder of Freeman and Webb Company, and he committed a $300,000 gift to really transform the third floor in Hankel Hall, which houses our football department, their offices, student recruitment spaces, and our player lounge for our football team. So we're ecstatic about that. Our young men are right now in summer access. They're lifting together and training and, you know, breaking down film for the upcoming season. So to see their response when they came in Hankel Hall and how that floor has been transformed from that gift, man, as a leader of athletics and a caretaker of our young people, it was remarkable to see that response. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm about their day-to-day business now. So we're pleased about that. In addition to that gift, we recently received a gift from Western Express, the Paul Wyke and his family. Paul is the CEO of Western Express, and they also made a major gift of $300,000 in support of athletics for our new weight room and locker room for football and track and field, both men's and women's track and field. So obviously we're pleased about that. When you look at the corporate sponsorship dollars and some of the companies that now are on board through our, we've outsourced our corporate sponsorships with the Paddle Agency. We have onboarded Nissan, TDOT, Coca-Cola, the General Insurance, and Ascend Credit Union. So we're obviously proud of our corporate sponsors, and you know, we continue to receive emails on ways that corporations want to be a part of TSU athletics. You know, when I got here, I've always communicated the importance of you know, private and corporate funding to advance and get our programs back to a standard of excellence, which I know everyone on here wants and our alums want. So we're excited about where we're going in this area, and I'm confident that we will continue to progress and bring in revenues, specifically in regards to financial support for our athletic facility upgrades and student service initiatives. We have had reorganization in athletics, so I want to touch on that. The organizational changes have been in the areas of development, communications, athletic events and engagement, and our ticket and customer service areas. A lot of these areas are external in nature, and I think that this is highly important that we have high-level individuals that understand the importance of customer service and provide an exceptional experience for our alumni and our fans. So we're forging ahead on filling those positions. If you've been engaged in athletics and paid attention, we have had a lot of national media around college hockey and the prospect of that at Tennessee State University. You know, this is just a broader, you know, it comes from a broader conversation that Dr. Glover and I have had on looking at ways to expand our athletic sports offerings. Right now, we have 15 sports that are sponsored by the NCAA. So we look at areas such as hockey, in baseball and soccer are also initiatives. So we've looked at a committee to work through feasibility studies that have to be had to bring sports to fruition. With that, with hockey, we have a partnership that is just an expansion of our relationship with the Predators that was established with a fundraising initiative, which was $1 million in 1 month. And so the president of the Nashville Predators, Sean Henry, Dr. Glover, myself, we've all been in constant dialogue about a feasibility study for hockey. That group, College Inc. and the Predators, will be on our campus June the 21st and the 22nd to receive information from our administrators on, the financials in relationship to student athlete aid, travel, logistics, equipment purchases that would have to be in place for us to have a hockey program. And so, it's exciting time. I use the words excitement, enthusiasm. It's a good place right now that we're in with our athletics programs. And I'll say this, since I've been here, I'm coming up on a year. It's been a total team effort amongst various units and departments. And I totally appreciate what everyone has lended in terms of being able to provide assistance and direction to get our athletics programs back to the top of the OVC pyramid. That concludes my report.
Any
Mr. Lewis,
questions?
can I make?
Please do.
I just want to say, Dr. Allen, I see Eddie's already becoming hard at work for TSU. It looks like he's having a celebrity golf tournament, July 25th and 26th. And the group of people that are confirmed to participate is really huge and impressive. And in addition to that, I see that all proceeds benefit TSU Athletic Fund and the George Foundation. So I think that's huge. It shows that he's committed to not just being a coach, but being a leader and bringing funds to the university. So I felt like that was important to say.
Thank you, Trustee Martin, for mentioning that. We would encourage, if you know how to hit a golf ball, and to come out on July 25th and 26th. And to that point, Coach George is totally committed to doing everything that he needs to do, whether that's exhausting his relationships on the business side that he's been on, to generate revenue to help grow not only athletics, but our whole institution. And it's just so refreshing that he has that attitude. And I know Dr. Glover and myself, we really appreciate that. And it's just an added benefit of the hire that was made. So thank you, Trustee Martin, for mentioning that.
Okay. Any other comments?
Chair Lewis, if this is Terrence, I'd like to mention one other thing.
Sure.
So you heard Dr. Allen talk about the great athletes. We get the benefit of meeting all the celebrity athletes that come through, but we also are so grateful for the university public relations department. I mentioned some of the other partnerships that really help move our recruitment forward and retention forward. And Kelly Sharp and her team has done an amazing job of really supporting us in the efforts of recruiting and retention.
Thank you.
And they did the same with athletics. They were just so outstanding in putting the athletics stories together, setting up these interviews. It has just been phenomenal. They've been reaching students for recruitment. They've been talking to the press about big stories about recruitment, about the sports team. It's just been, the news is positive. So we want to just at least take a moment and just enjoy that because many times we don't have positive news. So we're excited about that for this meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Glover, and thank you, Dr. Mickey Allen. And I want to thank you for bringing out the information on our former board member, Bill Freeman, and his contribution to the university. Dr. Mickey, you make me feel good. You know, you could sell a dead man a pair of shoes. Being a 1966 graduate of TSU, I'm ready to go back to school and come and work for the athletics department. And by the way, all of that information on Eddie George was in the Tennessean online edition this morning. I want to let you know that took up 25 minutes of my time trying to get ready for this meeting, reading all the information that the Tennessean put out. But thank you very much. Now, Dr. Glover, I want to thank you and your entire team, everyone on this call that is a employee, an associate, trustee of Tennessee State University. You've done one heck of a job, and I appreciate you and your team for what is being done. Now, I have to call out one other person because I think this person next to you, Dr. Glover, has got the most on them right now. So Dr. Douglas Allen, just in case you don't know it, God bless you, my brother, because you've got your plate full. Now, with that being said, is there any additional business to come before this committee? If there is none, then I move that the committee adjourn this particular meeting. Any discussion?
Thank you, Chairman.
Is there a second from anyone?
Second.
Thank you very kindly.
Yes, so welcome.
Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
All right, Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
Trustee Corbell, I believe he stepped away. Trustee Pinnock.
Aye.
We have 2 ayes, quorum.
All right. I think that, Mr. Chair, I think that after this, we are adjourned until lunch, and we eat lunch at TSU, right?
I thought we were having it delivered to our homes. That's what we talked about last month. I guess we didn't.
Well, if that's the case, then I know what to do. So do we come back on another number at 2 o'clock?
If I may jump in, Chair Lewis, yes, indeed. We will sign off of this link. Everyone on this call right now, we have a second link to join the 2 p.m. meeting. For those that are viewing via the live stream, the stream will stop and reconvene at 2 p.m. when the meeting convenes for the live board meeting.
Right.
Okay.